We'll create this view where the model is exploded and rendered with a Freestyle edge. We'll start with this file here that contains a basic Portico model which you'll find on the asset page of my website. Link in the description. Get that downloaded if you want to follow along. This file is set up with each part named and organized inside the Portico collection. Let's start by moving the playhead back to frame 1. We'll use keyframes to store this initial location first, then the exploded location. First, we need to change each object's origin from world 0 to geometry. This ensures each part will scale independently. Drag select every object in the scene. You can select these manually to ensure all are selected in the outliner by selecting the first object, scrolling down and shift selecting the last. To set the origin, right-click on the selection and from the Set Origin menu, choose Origin to Geometry. Then over in the Tool tab, ensure that the Locations option is enabled so that only the location of the object will be affected during scaling. In the Pivot menu, ensure it is set to medium point. To test, press S to scale, and the objects should move away from each other, creating an exploded view. Right-click to cancel the scaling action. Rotating the object can also create an interesting effect. Now let's store the first keyframe. With everything selected, press I to insert a keyframe for location, rotation, and scale. Move the scrubber forward on the timeline. The exact frame number isn't important here. Now press S to scale the object outwards, creating a second exploded location. When you're happy, let's press I again to insert another keyframe. Dragging back and forth between these two keyframes transitions between the initial state and the exploded view. Next, we need to view this animation from the camera. From the Add menu, let's add a camera to the scene. Press Ctrl plus Alt plus numpad 0 to align the camera to your current view. To navigate within the camera, press Shift plus the tilde key. Now use W, A, S and D to move the camera and frame up the objects. Use Q to move upward and E to move downwards. Once you've found a good position for the camera, left click to confirm. I'm leaving space on the right side for the dimensions to be displayed. Let's open the camera properties. From the type drop-down, let's switch the camera to be an orthographic. Then we can adjust the orthographic scale to refine the framing of the model. Then in the scene, use G to adjust the camera position and frame the model again if you need to. Down below on the timeline, enable auto keying. With auto keying on, any object moved will automatically have its changes recorded in the current keyframe. Here I can reposition the top piece slightly and move it up. Then I can quickly adjust a few more of these and create some space between them. Make adjustments until the exploded view looks the way you want it. Now adjust the camera and frame this again. Just a quick note about auto keying. If you move the camera while auto keying is active, a new keyframe will be added to store the camera's new location. While this is often fine, it can lead to unnecessary keyframes or even cause confusion. Any unwanted keyframes can be selected and deleted in the timeline. The next step is to add object names and sizes. I'll be using my add-on called SizeScribe for this. Find a link in the description. This add-on takes all the objects listed in the outliner and creates a CSV file containing their names and dimensions. These dimensions can be copied and pasted into a Blender text object. Alternatively, you can copy the names from the outliner manually. With the add-on enabled, use the name field to assign a name such as Portico. Then hit export. A notification will confirm that the data has been saved as a CSV file. Off screen, let's open up this file in a program. In this case, I'm using LibreOffice, but any CSV viewer will do. Select the object name column and then press Ctrl plus C to copy. Next, we can select the dimension column. Press Ctrl plus C here to copy this as well. Now let's open back up Blender. Let's start by coming to the Add menu, and from here let's find and add a text object. Then we can open the Item tab. In the X rotation field, let's input 90 to position the text upright. Then in the Z rotation field, let's input -90 to face it forward. Next, let's open the Object Data tab. Then we can scroll down to the paragraph settings, and under alignment, make sure it's set to horizontal left. We're going to use a copy rotation constraint, so the precise orientation isn't critical right now, but we do want the text facing in the general direction. With the text selected, let's tab into edit mode. Press Ctrl+A to select it all. If you're using Windows and have clipboard history enabled, press Windows key +V to access previously copied items. Then we can find the names and paste these here. If clipboard history isn't enabled, you need to manually copy and paste the columns separately. Now let's tab back to object mode. Then we can press S to scale. If scaling isn't working, it's because we changed a setting earlier. So let's come back to the Tool tab and uncheck Origins. Now scale the text down to fit within the camera view. And we can position this to the right. Now press Shift+D to duplicate, and we can move this across along the Y-axis and position here. To update the text, let's tab into edit mode. Press Ctrl+A to select all text. Here I can press the Windows key and V and paste in the previously copied items. This time I'm looking for dimensions, so I'll paste these here. Now tab back to object mode. Next, let's add a constraint to ensure the text objects face the camera. The camera is named Camera, so with one of the text objects selected, let's go to the Constraints tab. Here we can add a copy rotation constraint. In the target field, start typing Camera and select it from the drop-down. The default should be fine. To apply this constraint to the second text object, select the second text object. Then Shift select the first with the constraint. From the drop-down, choose Copy to Selected to duplicate the constraint. Now let's set up for rendering. Open the Render Properties tab, scroll to the bottom and enable Freestyle by checking the box. Below that, in Color Management, set the View Transform to Standard for a consistent white background. Next, let's open the World Properties tab. In here, we can set the color to be fully white. Next, let's go to the View Layers property for additional Freestyle settings. Here, we can set the crease angle to 160, so all visible lines will render. Under Freestyle Line Set, let's come down and check Collections. Then from the drop-down, we can choose the Portico collection. Let's move down to Freestyle Thickness. Here we can set the base thickness to 2. Back in the scene, let's select the two text objects. Here we can press M and create a new collection. Let's rename the collection to Scene and add the text objects inside. Also add the camera to this collection, so only the Portico objects remain in the Portico collection. Let's press F12 to render the scene. Give that a few moments to complete. Here we can see a few additional tweaks are necessary. First, let's assign a material to the text objects. So let's close the render window. Here we can select one of the text objects. In the Material Properties tab, we can create a new material. Now rename it Text. Then in the color swatch, let's change the base color to a dark shade. Select the second text object and assign the same text material to it. Finally, let's adjust the output resolution for a higher quality render. Let's go to the Output Properties tab. In the resolution fields, increase the value by multiplying each by 2. So for example, let's append 2 to the back of 1920 and press Enter. Repeat this for 1080. Now let's render the scene again by pressing F12. The text objects should now render properly with improved resolution and material. While it's not too important here with the exploded view, if you wanted to print the model in an orthographic view at a specific scale, we could use the ScaleIt add-on. Find a link in the description. First, we can set the paper size. In this case, it will be A3. The orientation should be set to landscape. The DPI, which determines the resolution, is typically set to 300 and is sufficient for most purposes. Next, we can configure the custom scale. Since we are working with a distant view, let's set this value to 25. You could name the camera for easy identification, but for now we'll leave it unnamed. Apply the scale. This step adjusts the existing camera settings to achieve an approximation of a scale of 1 to 25. I'm going to quickly adjust the model and fit the frame a little bit better. Once the settings are applied, we can render the image. Click Render Image and allow the process to complete, so give that a moment. Now we have a rendered image at an approximated scale of 1 to 25. The next step is to add some annotation objects to help provide more information once rendered. These are geometry node annotations I created. I'm just going to switch my timeline to an asset browser. The asset browser gives you a lot more flexibility and options. Here I have some annotation objects, so I'm just going to drag and drop one of these into the scene. If I shift select the text object, then from the Constraints tab, from the drop down, copy to selected. So now I can select the annotation object and just scale it down first. Then I'm going to snap it, so press G, press B to get a snap point on the corner, and then snap it to the top cap. Then one useful thing about these, if I open the modifiers tab, the geometry node has a text input exposed, so I can input the corresponding number on the list of objects and the top cap. I can quickly add a few more of these and I'll just speed this up. That's it, so now we're ready to render, so let's press F12 and give it a quick final render. That's it, quick and easy way to render out your models in exploded view with names, dimensions and some annotations.